Grit and grace, that's how we grow. Step by step and child by child we know. There's power in the words we say. We lift the voices, light the way. Grit and grace, it's a journey we all share. For every child, everywhere.
Welcome, everyone, to our latest episode of Grit and Grace, a literacy journey, where today we have two literacy leaders with us that I am so happy to welcome. They're not only literacy leaders and I feel experts in our field, they're also people that I get to call friends. So, welcome to Donna Hejtmanek and Lori Severino. Welcome to you both.
Thank you for having us. Thanks. We're happy to be here.
Oh, we're excited to have you here. Unfortunately, Gretchen is not able to be with us today. She's very sad about that. So I'm going to do my best to lead our conversation by myself. She's a little bit more of a natural at it. But I've got our questions, and I just hope that we get to have a very authentic conversation because I want everyone out there to get to really know the two of you and all of the important work that you're both doing in our field. So, can you begin and just tell us a little bit about your personal literacy journeys and what brought you to the work that you are both doing today?
Lori, go ahead. You start.
So I was a special education teacher actually in mostly at the high school level for 26 years. And then I got my doctorate and moved into higher ed. So I was working in teacher prep, both undergrads and in-service teachers. And I spent from the time I learned about, well, back when I learned about it, it wasn't called structured literacy, right? But so once I started to implement those practices, I needed to make sure as many teachers as possible could understand and be able to apply that to teach all kids to read, because I was teaching kids with dyslexia my whole career. And once I started applying the science, it changed everything for my kids. And so I wanted to make sure we could get that word out to as many people as possible. So when I went into higher ed, my goal was to make sure that we had this in teacher prep, right? Because that's one of the best ways to get it out to the teachers.
Absolutely. I love that. And we all know how important it is, even currently today. It's still not completely out there. So thank you, Lori. Donna, what about you?
So, just like Lori, I was a special education teacher. Then was a transition specialist. For those of you who don't know what that is, you are at the high school level and transition kids out into the world of work or world of college. And then I ended my career as a reading specialist. And then I just so happened to get involved in legislative movements in Wisconsin and started being an advocate in Wisconsin for dyslexia laws and recognition for how to train kids and teachers on the science of reading. So that was a really interesting time for me, and it led me to creating the Science of Reading Facebook page, which was a game changer for so many people around the world, and it really changed my it changed things for so many people.
It has so many people use that. I think at first it was their introduction, even to the science of reading for a lot of people. And it's become
Absolutely.
this collective network for them. If they aren't getting the information in their school districts, they're looking at all the information there. And I think it's become a complete resource for them to learn.
It really has. It's been, we have over 100 countries represented. We're zeroing in on 250,000 members. It's just been really such a inspiring for me to continue the work. And then I get to meet people like you and Lori, and it's just been, I thought I was retiring Oh, no, 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 no. This is my second career, but I just embrace it. It's just been really amazing.
Well, it has, and you're doing amazing things for so many people on different
Thank you.
levels too.
Thank you.
Principals, those in higher ed, because now you've expanded and you have different Facebook groups, and so it's just
Yes.
amazing. Thank
Yes.
you,
Yes.
thank you, thank you.
You're welcome.
Were there any pivotal moments or experiences that shaped either of you and your passion for literacy or for dyslexia advocacy?
So there was one pivotal moment for me for sure. I had already been teaching for about 10 years at the high school level, and I was not really affecting if they were having difficulty with decoding. I didn't know what to do, right? I could help with the vocabulary and the comprehension piece, and we could do read aloud, but my kids weren't able to read the text themselves. And so when I was introduced to structured literacy after 10 years of teaching, I really, the light bulb went off, and I was like, well, of course, this is what I need.
I'm sorry.
And I didn't get my undergrad, I didn't get that information in my undergrad program, which we know a lot of folks. And so to make sure that as soon as I started implementing it, I brought it to the district and basically had a conversation with my special ed director that we need this. This is what the kids need that are dyslexic, are having difficulty reading. So once I learned about the structured literacy practices, I knew they had to be in place and I knew the kids needed that. So I actually went to my special ed director and said, we need to implement this for all the kids that have IEPs that are not reading at grade level. This is what they need. And, trying to change a system and how things were working in the school, very difficult.
Very difficult.
But I basically said, if I can't do it here, I need to go somewhere where I can. And they called me back the next day and said, okay, how are we going to do this? And it's
Wow.
still, that happened in 1999, and it's still running in that high school, which is
Oh,
also, I mean, good and bad, right? Why do they still need it at the high school level? But they are still supporting kids the same way, which is awesome.
that's great to hear. Great
Oh,
to hear. I had
wow.
goosebumps on that. Thank you. Yeah.
Mhm.
Donna, what about you?
Well, Lori, as you know, our lives are so parallel. Well, 10 years into my career, I went for a training in, I think it was in North Chicago, and it was the Project Read material out of Minnesota. And I remember that it was a whole week training. I remember coming home and saying, I finally know what to do.
Yeah.
Like, oh my gosh, this is so amazing. And it was basically structured literacy, beginning with phonics. And because we didn't have that, we had basals that we were using. And, these kids need a whole lot more than that. And so that was my training. And it was such a light bulb moment for me, and for my students, because I finally had something that could stick and get them moving, right? So, and that was sadly 10 years into my career that I finally got some idea of what I needed to do. Of course, it's just the tip of the iceberg, but it was a start.
You know what's interesting? I found it after 10 years in the classroom too. That's when I found it. I felt like I needed to get all the students back. I was introduced to Dr. Vicki Gibson for a training. And at that time, like
Mhm.
Lori mentioned earlier, it wasn't coined the science of reading.
No.
It was just, the research says, and she was sharing that. But
Right.
I had not been able to reach all of my students, even though I had some of the highest numbers for sure in our school and district and, well above the state average, but I wasn't reaching all. And then a
Mm.
student came along that I just could not figure out what is going on with this student. it ended up being dyslexia, but at the time I did not know. And so through Dr. Gibson learned all that I needed to know and then started reaching all, and the score soared. And then, like Lori was able, to take that
Mhm.
to the other people. But hopefully, our work can help teachers and they don't have to wait so long to get this
Exactly.
information. So,
That's
the two
that's
of
why we
you,
started Credentials Unlimited.
yes. So, the
There you
two of
go.
you have founded Credentials Unlimited. And before we even dive in and talk about it, it's an incredible thing, but just in a couple of sentences, explain for anyone that is not familiar, if they have not heard Credentials Unlimited, what is it? What's it doing for teachers? And then we'll go into how it came about.
Lori, I'm letting you take this one because you are the brainchild.
So obviously, when Donna started the Facebook page, and I was probably in the first 100 people
Hmm.
that joined, um, and I was also at higher ed at the time. All these teachers were, if you remember the pandemic, it was
Hmm.
so much resources were out there for free for teachers, right? They could
Hmm.
do
Hmm.
webinars, and they could, there were online conferences. Like it was a different world, and teachers were doing
Hmm.
all of this development on their own. And so trying to figure out how, and they were asking Donna, they were saying, is there any way I could get credit for this? I'm taking this web, any way I could get credit for this? And on the higher ed side, I knew about microcredentials, and I knew that so microcredentials are short, specific credentials on a certain thing. So you wouldn't necessarily, when you go to university, you take a lot of different courses, right? And some apply and some don't, and some give you what you need, and some are, they're trying to broaden, things for you to learn. But micro credentials are very specific and targeted skills. And so that's what the teachers were doing over the pandemic. They were getting targeted skills. And so Donna and I kind of were like, I approached her and said, what would you think about doing micro credentials? And it was a new term for a lot of people, but especially in education. The business world knows a lot about micro credentials. Other countries are doing micro credentials better than the US, but this was a way that teachers could get recognition and have something to show for all the work they were putting in and all the things that they were doing. And so Donna can talk about, kind of how we moved on from there and what we started.
Oh, you're muted.
All right. There we go. So we just decided this was going to be something we were going to pursue. And we originally, a wonderful experience. We're about 3 years in now. And what's so exciting for me is to see our menu of courses growing. People are coming to us wanting us to micro-credential their courses because for many independent instructors or course creators, they don't have a way to recognize or have the course get the recognition that it needs, and or have the micro credential. The purpose of the micro credential is that it provides a non-credit transcript for the course completion. You have to successfully complete the course, and you can do that 80% better with either a final exam or completing some sort of project. So in a sense, this is a whole lot better than a CEU, because CEUs are really just a sort of, I showed up, I took the class, and then I just get credit for it. This goes much more beyond that. And I think what it provides for teachers is a way to gain knowledge in discrete skills, and you can stack those skills. So our courses can be very specific. For example, we just acquired a handwriting course. We are going to be acquiring a coaching course. I mean, these are very specific skills that that are hard to find almost in coursework,
Mm-hmm.
but we're housing them or we're offering them, and it's really exciting to see our buckets. We have a wheel, see my wheel behind me, of all the
Yes.
topics that we incorporate into our offerings.
So, break down the acronym CEU if people don't understand that.
Continuing education units. Now, some certification requires to have that. I think some of the some of the IDA requirements are CEUs. There's other certifications that require CEUs, but this is much better than that.
So the great thing about the credential part is that we're a third party reviewer. So
Mhm.
Angie, let's suppose you had a course to deliver and you wanted a micro credential with it. Well, we vet the courses that we have, right? So we meet with the people, we make sure that we have looked at their content to make sure it follows the science, right? That's the first thing. But also we look at not just the course, but we look at the outcomes. What is the person that takes the course expected to know on the outside of things, right? So we require that there's something they have to do, either an assessment or, like Donna said, a project, or maybe they have to teach a lesson and reflect on it. There has to be something that they have to do. And we look at the outcomes and we require a certain level of knowledge about those outcomes or application for us to be able to offer the micro-credential. So we're not micro-credentialing the whole course. We're micro-credentialing what did they have to do? What skill did they have to show that they really know in depth, not just at the surface level, but what do they really know about it? So we have to see multiple exposures around the same, and we most of our courses that we micro-credential are aligned to the knowledge and practice standards for the teachers of reading. And we want to make sure that if we see in the outcomes that they have to understand and be able to deliver information on phonemic awareness and how to do that, we want to see that multiple times in the outcomes. And so we're verifying that, and we're using experts to determine, yes, this meets the standards multiple times, and we could give that competency to that micro-credential. So they're earning competencies, and now most universities are competency based. So it's not necessarily about how many credit hours you had, but do you know that competency? Do you meet that competency? So one of the things we're working toward is meeting with universities to say, okay, if they print out a transcript from their micro-credential, because we have that option that there's a way they can select which courses they've taken, which competencies, and put it into a transcript form that a university could then look at and go, oh, I understand what was taught, what they learned, and now they don't have to take this course over here if they
Wow.
take a master's program.
Okay, that's huge.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's huge. And it's vetted, it's research based, it's aligned to the science, it's at a very low cost, short duration. And teachers are doing so much
So much.
studying on their own anyway. Let's let them get credit for all the time they're spending. Okay.
And the
Wow.
other thing is that the schools of education, this might be a little off topic, but the schools of education may or may not have that knowledge on the science of reading. And
Right.
so as a teacher, as a professional, if I want to get that training, but I know my local university or even any university that I would choose to go to does not offer courses that have content. There are companies that do, and those are the companies that we have in our on our menu. These are companies that are started by experts in the field, have created in-depth, intensive courses that teachers can take to build that knowledge that they didn't get in college. So it's really a win-win for them. And it's exciting to see so many of them wanting to learn more.
Yeah, so exciting. So, what's the mission? What is your mission behind Credentials Unlimited? And how do you hope it impacts educators and students, not just the teachers, the students as well?
Go ahead, Donna.
Well, Lori and I came up with our tagline, and we're really proud of it. And it is building your professional portfolio through personalized learning. And we feel that teachers, once you start teaching, your gateway into teaching was the coursework that you took in college. And as you start teaching, your experiences either help you or they don't. And if you're still lacking in some skills that you really want to get better at, professional learning is the next step. Often teachers are not getting the right professional development. And
So,
so,
I'm sorry. So,
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 so, so,
so true. Yes.
or they're only getting the professional development that their district wants them to learn. And so this is an opportunity for teachers to do this independently, and seek out what they feel will enhance their professional expertise. And because our menu is growing literally every day, we can offer that to them. We feel like we're a hub for teachers to go to that can look at this menu and say, oh, I could do this and this and this and this. And think big strokes. What
Mhm.
maybe I want to take a handwriting course, or maybe I want to take a coaching course. Maybe I want to take a course on assessments, or just in general, what is the science of reading? We have all that in one area, easy to get to, inexpensively.
Yes. And I love that teachers can choose what is
Right.
relevant to them right now.
Mhm.
Because teachers are changing grade levels. Sometimes, I mean, I
Right.
know Gretchen's taught 10th, 11th, 12th grade English, then went to 4K, and now this year she's going to be in 4th. I mean, and that happens
Yeah.
to teachers. And so
Right.
they can choose a course that's relevant to where they are in their literacy journey right now. And like you said, maybe it's not being offered in the professional development that's coming up this year in their district, but they still
Hmm.
need or want to learn more. So I love that it's
They do.
ever expanding and it's this
Mhm.
hub of choices, basically like a menu that they can pick from.
And if we
Absolutely.
had our dream, right, it would be that, and if there's any states out there listening, city departments of ed, we have a teacher shortage, right? We
Yes,
have, could there be a pathway, a less expensive pathway, where teachers are getting this expert knowledge, right? Where we could
Mhm.
build out all the competencies that are required, especially like a reading specialist for certain, right? We have
for
enough
certain.
courses
Yeah.
we have enough competencies in the courses that we offer right now that we probably meet all of the standards for a
Mhm.
reading specialist certificate. And so if they did it through micro-credentials and had a transcript that, yeah, these competencies were all met, could they get a reading specialist certificate through their micro-credential expertise, right? Or maybe
Wouldn't that
a couple courses, yeah, that they have to
that
take.
is our dream, because we
Wouldn't
feel
that
that
change the game?
it completely,
Certainly would, yeah.
completely.
Yeah. So
And
how
we're
did
hoping
your in
we're hoping states will recognize that, like Lori said. I mean, because of the shortage. I'm just reiterating, I'm sorry, but it's
yes.
true.
No,
That's
it's true. And it's so needed. And you've got schools that are, I'm seeing now in my full time consulting work, They are just picking a teacher and putting them in the role of coach without training and saying, but you were a good classroom teacher, so now go forth and coach. And, these expectations and weight and everything's placed on them. And the coaches that I'm working with in coaching have had no coaching or training often to put them in that role. That's not everywhere, but it's going on in a lot of places. So
I've heard of
this is a
teachers,
fabulous way to change that.
yeah, with
But
zero experience, brand new teachers out of
yeah,
college becoming coaches.
yeah, yeah,
I mean, it's
yeah,
ridiculous what the demands we're putting on teachers
yes, yeah,
without the
without the
training,
coaching and support and
Yeah.
training that they need.
without the training.
Yep.
Hmm.
So, how did your individual experiences and strengths come together to shape this initiative? How did that happen?
Wow, Lori and I added it up. We have 71 years as educators together.
Wow.
I know, right? We're getting old.
Wow.
Um,
You don't
higher
look old enough,
education.
either one of you.
Oh my gosh.
Um,
It will be 50 years for me in 26. I graduated in 76. Isn't that
Wow.
nuts? That's
Yes.
bonkers. Anyway, how did this happen? My work as an advocate in Wisconsin really changed things for me. I just realized um, that the teacher training programs were just not adequate. And I had personal experience with that because my position when I ended my career as a reading specialist, I was working on an emergency license, right? So I had to go to school and in a unnamed Wisconsin university, and it was a completely balanced literacy program.
Yeah.
And so by then I knew better, which just fired me up. And for 2 years during the completion of that program, my poor husband had to listen to me day in and day out complain, but it served me very well because I was able to use that knowledge of the lack of teacher training in Wisconsin to talk legislatively and to talk intelligently about what's going on in our schools of education in Wisconsin. And I know that's happening in every other state. So it served me well in that I was able to take that lack of knowledge that I learned and turn it into advocacy for legislation, which was successful, by the way.
Yes. Yes. And as a person who was a leader in Wisconsin for 3 years, I can't thank you
Mhm.
enough
You're
personally for what you did and the difference that it has made
Yeah,
in the
it was a
state.
team effort. Yep. And we really we worked really, really hard and we found our advocates in legislators and that's what you have to do. And it worked. And that was a proud moment for all of us. So
As it should be. Lori, do you want to add to it about how the strengths came together?
yeah, I think um, just Donna and I clicked from the get go, right? And we have
true.
so many. I can't even get into the similarities of our life paths, and we had never crossed paths. Um, and we met during, her Facebook page, but really during the pandemic. And when she first started
Mhm.
the Facebook page, I was doing research as a professor, and I wanted to see why her page was growing so fast.
Really?
Yes. So I reached out to Donna and said, can I do some research? Can we put out a survey to your members? And she was gracious and sure you can. And we were finding that teachers with 25 years experience were using her page and finding out about the science of reading. And, it didn't matter what level experience that there were new people, there were people that were in
Mhm.
there for a very long time, and they were we were trying to figure out how are they using it and was it impacting their practice? And it was impacting their practice.
Yes.
They were using
Mhm.
the
Mhm.
information. And that was a place in the beginning where the leading researchers were sharing their work, right? And putting that, and so people could get, and they could ask questions and say, or when a new study comes out, it's posted on Donna, hey, check this out, here's a
Yeah.
summary, or that helps the research to practice piece. And for me, that's what really was the driving force, that how do you get the research to practice into schools faster? Because right now it takes about 17 years from something new
Right.
to get into regular practice. That's if that happened in the medical field, imagine
So,
where we would be.
exactly. Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. It's,
Mhm.
So
oh,
it's micro-credentials, you can get that information out, right? You can get it to the teachers.
Quickly and affordably.
yes, so important.
Mhm.
I am so thankful of all the time I've spent with both of you. I am so thankful for this conversation. I did not realize that you two came together after the Facebook group. Because to know
Oh
you
yeah.
now and to know how strong the bond is and the friendship is, I just had no idea. Because it seems like a friendship of the ages, and to know that it came
So
together,
true.
right? To
It's
know
so
that it came
true.
together through the Facebook group is just
Right,
fascinating. Yeah.
right.
But that's the whole beauty of the social media and the page and what we do. It's just it's a camaraderie with so many people. It's just our lives have been enriched for it,
Yes.
and we have enriched other lives. And so I hear that all the time from members about their, they didn't know anything. Parents, teachers, administrators, researchers, they come to us. They're
Mhm.
asking questions. And
Yes.
so I'm so glad that Lori had this idea, first of all, and that we were able to make a go of it and develop this organization that is out there for
And
teachers.
we may be branching out into other countries very soon, so stay posted.
Ooh, that's exciting.
Yeah.
Yep.
But
Yep.
anything that will help get research to practice sooner is a blessing for
Right,
every teacher and student
right.
that's out there.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. We're excited. We have a course coming down the pike for administrators, and it's really we're there's no limit to what
Yeah.
we will be offering.
Well, we're only about 20 minutes into this conversation. I can tell you this has already sparked the urgency for me to get the courses I'm going to do for you finished. I am
Yay!
fired up. Yes. Okay. So now switching gears a bit just to the topic of professional development. Why do you believe ongoing professional development? Patty Montgomery and I write about that. It's one of the 6 systems in the book It's Possible. Ongoing professional development. Why did the two of you believe it is critical for today's educators, particularly in literacy?
The research always
Lori?
changing, right?
Yes.
Even since the pandemic, we've had
Hmm.
more research come out on things, right? And we need to get that out fast, right? It goes back to that research to practice, that 17-year gap. How do we get it out to teachers in a way that they really can understand what's happening and know how does that change my practice? And I
Hmm.
know we're going to be talking about this, but the practicum piece is so critical, and the coaching
Hmm.
piece, right? So I think we have some great ways of getting knowledge out there in lots of different ways, and people can zoom in on a credential and say, okay, I want knowledge in fluency and how to improve
Yeah.
fluency, and they can take a course 10 hours specifically on that. But the coaching needs to be there to bring in, all right, I thought it was this, am I doing it right? Right? Or how do I give feedback to kids? Or how do I, you know, um, make sure that they are meeting the goals that they need to meet in order to close the gap? And so the professional development is critical. And also the expertise of the people giving the information is critical
Mhm.
because I mean, there are some people that have the surface level knowledge, and
Mhm.
that's not going to be enough to change practice in the school building, right, in the classroom. And so thinking about how that all can happen is really what drives us. Like we're always thinking, okay, how do we help the teachers? That's always been our goal, and our goal has always been we don't want teachers to spend a lot of money because we know
Mhm.
they're already doing a
Mhm.
lot anyway. But how can we do it very cost effective, and how can we get the information to them in a way that they'll be able to use their micro-credential to benefit them in the long run, right? And so we're always thinking
Mhm.
of how do we get benefits for the teachers? And so also again, we work with the state of New Hampshire, and they put a system in place, and they have micro-credentialing if you do this, this, and this, and we're recognizing it at the State Department, right? There's states that are bringing in micro-credentials as a way to show that you really know this stuff, that it's not just, like Donna said, the CEUs and the surface level, but can you really take that
Can
knowledge
you apply
and
it
apply it?
and
Mm-hmm.
put it
You
into
apply it.
practice?
Right.
Yeah. Which is what's important for the students in the classroom.
Right.
Not have you received the training. I see that in some of the training programs out there for teachers. Not going to start naming them, but there are some, and then they get trained in something, but they don't know how to go in their room and apply that information in a practical setting with their
Right.
students to impact their students' learning.
Right.
Correct.
Yeah.
And the other thing that Credentials Unlimited does is that we are only focused on evidence-based practices and science of reading courses. That's our expertise. That's what we know the best. And so we are drawing in from people who are creating courses that are evidence-based practices. That's the only thing we will talk about and take on.
And I think that's so important for educators to know that every single minute I invest in this, I can guarantee it's the information, it's effective. And what I'm
Correct.
getting, it's research based, it's evidence based. I'm going to the correct source. I'm getting it from the right leaders because now I'm finding, I was blessed with very knowledgeable people that stepped in and
Mhm.
offered me my training. Donna, you know that. I mean,
Yep.
Vicki Gibson, Jan Hasbrook, Anita Archer, Doug
Right.
Fisher. I mean, John
Right.
Hattie. I was getting it, but now I'm finding out that there are teachers that are getting information that at the time they thought was okay. And when they deepen their knowledge base, they realize I wasn't getting evidence based or research based information.
Yeah. And
And
well,
one of the
that's how we got to the crisis we're in, you know.
yeah,
Yep.
and one
Yeah,
of the things
exactly. Flawed
we
reading
offer
approaches.
on the metadata that comes with your micro-credential. So it's not just people like the digital badge, right, and put it on their signature page. But there's metadata behind the badge, and that's part of their transcript. But it gives you the course description, it gives you your competencies, what you achieved, and then it also gives you the research base behind that course, right? So there's either links to the research, or there's here's
Mhm.
where this course was developed based on this evidence base, and that so if we don't have that, that's one of the things we expect when we're going to take on a course for a micro-credential is what's your research base, and we need to look at that data, and not the data but the research. Is it
Mhm.
following the science, right? Um,
Yeah.
so that is right on the metadata with our micro-credential.
So as you said that, something came to me. And that is, as a leader, so leaders, listen up, as a principal and a former superintendent, when you're hiring, when you're hiring
Mhm.
people, if you could look at this and see and look at what a gift that could be to principals and superintendents that are looking for teachers, because a huge problem for leaders in the field right now is, when I get this teacher, how much professional development are we as a district going to have to invest in this person to get them ready for the classroom? And what a gift it would be to come in and see these listed and think, this person's ready to go.
Mhm.
That is
I
a
don't,
great point.
Yeah.
yeah,
And
and I
they
don't
can
think my mind
Excellent.
share.
had gone there until this discussion. What'd you start to say, Lori?
They can share. So there's a place on our platform that if they want to share their micro-credential information, their transcripts with a principal, they can, with a superintendent, they can, with a university, they can. They just put, and it's almost like you would when you go to a university and you request a transcript. You
Right.
put in who you want it sent to. They can do that on our platform, and they can decide check off which micro-credentials they have that they want to send to that person. So they can put it on their resume, they can put a link right on there, and it'll take that person right into the metadata of each of their micro-credentials.
I love that. Well,
Mhm.
what kinds of learning experience do you think are most meaningful for teachers in our field?
Practicums.
Practicum, hands-on. Yeah.
And
In fact,
coaching, right?
yeah.
So one of the things I see a lot, because I coach a lot of teachers, is just in giving feedback, right, to the kids when they make errors, and giving the kids think time and wait time, and doing those cognitive things for kids. Sometimes we jump in too quickly
Yep.
and give the kids the answer instead of letting their brains start to make those neural connections and think about it. And sometimes you can give them questions to help trigger that so that they can get to what they're searching for. But seeing it in practice and getting feedback on your own practice, that was always helpful for me, right? Like, oh, I didn't realize, why I'm doing that, right? Why I need to do that. I just thought that was something, silly,
Yeah.
or just
Yeah.
an extra routine. Well, why do I need to do that? Well, that's because it really helps with maybe the orthographic mapping or something else that they're not really understanding the process. And so I love that we're going to be bringing on coaching courses and admin courses and
Mhm.
practicum things, right? Because that's where the rubber meets the road. You can have the knowledge in your head, but how do you get it across to kids? And if you're not changing their outcomes, does that really serve to do all this other work, right? What's the real
Mhm.
the outcome is kids closing the gap.
Yeah.
Some of our courses even offer communities of practice. And so you get the knowledge, and then you meet as a group of whoever's taking the
Wow.
course, and there's talking. There's a lot of sharing out, application of what you learned, and then sharing out of what the results were, and then that communication and that talking, sharing out is so helpful to improve practice.
So, how do you think school leaders can better support educators in pursuing high quality literacy PD?
Well,
This is a topic near and dear to my heart. So,
well, and me too. Just like teachers didn't learn this in college, administrators didn't learn this in college either.
amen
And
to
so,
that.
right, and because we're cut from the same cloth, right? So um, we see a lot of deficits with administrators not knowing how to read the data, how to interpret it, what to do with it, next steps, MTSS systems, all that, those systems and structures that they're not solid on, and they don't have the knowledge as to what do I do now? I mean, how do I
Hmm.
do this? Or how do I utilize the resources in my building that can help make this system better? And so we have, I believe, two administrative courses, Lori. Do we one or two now? And
We're
one
waiting.
is on, and we're waiting for another one. And so we feel that that is so critical. You can't lead if you don't know. You
Exactly.
just
You cannot lead what you don't know.
exactly.
Not
So
possible.
not possible. So, and as we know, leaders are the heart and soul of of good outcomes. If your leader knows what they're doing, then they can lead their flock, so to speak, and
Yeah.
do well, right?
Yeah.
Angie, it goes back to what you were saying before about who you put in as your coaches, right? If you don't really know the science or those practices or what you're looking for when you go in, you don't know that you're picking the right person to be the coach.
Right, right.
Go in and help. And some don't even have coaches, right? They're just, the teachers are just in there kind of helping each other, but nobody with real expertise on changing those practices. And so when you're trying to change a system, it can't just be the knowledge, but it has to be the systems change also, right? So how you're scheduling, how much
100%.
time they have for certain things, and what resources do they have available to them. So I think that whole knowledge of the MTSS process and how to implement that and do it really well, there's a lot that you have to know about all of that. And I don't know that administrators have that depth and breadth of knowledge around that.
Yeah. They don't. And it's not okay now for them not to have it.
Mhm.
You know, I mean, it's not, there's too many people relying on them at
Sure.
this point. So, yeah, it's critically important.
Yeah, isn't it the second most impactful thing? The first is the teacher knowledge, and the second is the administrator knowledge. Most impactful on changing kids' outcomes.
And we know
Yeah.
now that, you know, a teacher can impact, Patty writes about this in the book. A teacher can impact the group of kids that are in their classroom. And a building leader can impact all the students in the building, all of them.
And
you
the
know, so
university professor can impact even more than that.
yes, true. So let's take it then. Let's switch gears and let's go to higher ed, teacher prep. Who in higher ed, from your perspective, what do you feel is still missing in teacher prep programs, especially from the lens of literacy instruction?
So NCTQ, which is the National Council on Teacher Quality, has done years and years, 20 plus years of research. And recently they came out with what is not happening in the schools of education. So first of all, inadequate training in the science of reading is a great weakness. Elementary math is another weakness. Let's see, undermining student learning before teachers even enter the classroom. So we have that, and then insufficient preparation of classroom management. So those are the four top things that NCTQ is talking about. But this really just comes back to just poor training overall. We know that many states only require, and I want to say 2 courses in teaching reading, just 2 to 3. Lori, do you know about that?
I think it varies from.
It varies school to school, but just 2 to 3 courses when we know that there's so much to learn to be an effective reading teacher. How do you put all that content in just 3 courses? There needs to be a greater emphasis on science-based, evidence-based instruction that certainly expands more than 3 courses.
Well, and I went 4.5 years to college and added the extra semester so I could do a dual minor. So I had done a minor and a reading concentration for elementary reading, and then I'd added on a minor for language and literacy, and still, y'all, didn't learn any of this. Didn't learn any of it.
You wonder what was going on. I mean, what could they talk about for all those hours and not get to the core of things?
Yeah, I mean, I think I don't want to totally be. I think it's changing. Let's just say that it's changing. Is it changing fast enough? No.
But at least it is changing, which is a huge point, Lori. Thanks for making that.
So I'll brag about Pennsylvania a little bit here, because when I went to Drexel, that was my mission, right? Is to make sure we have, again, it wasn't called structured literacy then, but having that structured literacy. And so at Drexel, we had that. We applied for IDA accreditation, pretty quickly after I got there. We've been IDA accredited. We have 4 programs that are IDA accredited. But also, I was part of the Read by Fourth campaign in Philadelphia, and that was one of the missions, was to get other universities on board to understand the knowledge and practice standards. And we had Emily Hanford before everybody knew about her. I mean, it was maybe after the first podcast, the first told the story, but we had her come to an event that we were having, talking about the IDA standards, but also why we needed them, why schools of ed needed to have. And so schools of ed were invited, not just, it was a bunch, and we had great panelists, and Emily spoke about the need. So, and we got the superintendent at the time of Philadelphia School District, the 8th largest school district in the country, to say that he didn't want to hire anybody that wasn't from an IDA accredited university. That was back in 2017, he said that. So we could see the shift was happening, and we have the most accredited universities in the whole country in Pennsylvania, because
Wow.
we went, from school to school, and we talked, and it helps to have, I was at their level, like I was at the university. And so I think it's kind of like when teachers feel like, how did I not know this before, right? It's that we have to understand that professors are feeling that same thing, like, I don't know what I don't know until I know it. And then
Yep.
when you know it, you're like, oh my, it's that same thing, right? And so I think we have to allow for some grace for university professors to be able to go and do their own knowledge building and their own, like, what do I need to do? But it also has to be some on the outcomes, just like we do with our micro-credentials, right? It's about the outcomes. They can take classes and still not be able to get it into the practice piece of things, right? So I think it's important to have some kind of, when you finish your training, there has to be some kind of assessment that is all about the structured literacy. We know there are some assessments out there that don't really follow the science, but for instance, the Foundations of Reading test, right? You have to know your stuff to be able to pass that test. And so we need to have the standards really high for people that are coming out of ed programs. And then if there are reports on how many people are passing that the first time, then people are going to know which universities are doing the work, right? And
Right.
I think that's a good path to kind of have some kind of assessment built in. Or I think it's EdTPA that has portfolios, right? Let me do some videos, put in some, are you able to do this kind of instruction with kids, right? With a
Yeah.
classroom full of kids, not
Yeah.
just one-on-one, but can you do it with small groups? Can you do it with large groups? Do you know what to do in this situation? Do you know how to write lesson plans that are effective? So I think there's still a lot of work to be done, but I do see it changing and moving
And
in that direction.
that's exciting. And thanks for adding the part about grace, because that's where Gretchen and I got the name. That's where Gretchen came up with that idea, Grit and Grace, a literacy journey, because we know it takes both. We have
Yeah.
to give grace to ourselves, we've got to give grace to others, and we do need a lot of
It's
that
true.
right now
It is
in our
so
work we're
true.
doing. So let's talk about 2 other things before we wrap up. One, the impact this is having. What kind of feedback have you received from educators who have engaged with Credentials Unlimited? Have you gotten any? Have you heard from any of them about what it's done?
Yeah, we have one that has 4 or 5 micro-credentials, and it proudly shares them. So we're pretty excited about that. But people will reach out to me and say, that know me, that know that this is their credential is coming from Microcredentials, and they will be like, I got my micro-credential, or look, I got my badge, or they're sharing it on social media. And we love that they're excited and proud to have their micro-credential, because it's a lot of work. Those are not easy things and you have to show competency at the end. And so it's not an easy process, but they have learned a lot, right? That's the big takeaway, is
Yes.
they learned from it.
And they're ready to apply it
Right.
in practice.
Well, that's what's so exciting for them as learners, is that I took this course. It empowered me to know more. It also made me want to learn more and continue. The one gal that she was talking about, she just keeps getting more and more micros, but she has become a leader in her country. So, a literacy leader in her district and in her country. So it's just so exciting to see
So
the
exciting.
impact that this can have.
So what's next for both of you? Do you have any exciting developments or projects? Because you're both movers and shakers. So do you have anything upcoming that you'd like to share? What's next for both of you?
Well, Lori, I'll say we were in the UK. We were in Oxford, England in April, presenting at the World Literacy Summit on microcredentials. So that was a big deal for us, meeting with world leaders, literacy leaders around the world that we're all in this mission together. So that was exciting. And then Lori, what's happening in October?
Yeah, so we are presenting on at IDA at the conference in Atlanta, and we are presenting on a higher ed panel, and they've asked us to be the closeout presentation on that symposium, because micro-credentials really do align well with the university level things. And so if there's universities out there, wondering, like, we have courses coming in the next week, actually, that they're working with universities that are implementing some of these courses that we have micro-credentials for, and they're implementing it as pre-service teachers taking the courses. So they can be implemented for those universities that don't have the staff or the professors that have this deep knowledge. You can borrow, right? You can add to, so you don't have to be kind of out there on your own. So that's pretty exciting.
Yeah, we already have the systems built in. We have that. We've done the work on that. So for those who are looking for help with that, we've got you covered.
Yeah.
That's exciting to hear. So if someone wants to sign up, this is the first they've heard of Credentials Unlimited. They're ready to learn more. They want to find a course to take. They want to expand their learning and earn a micro credential. What do they need to do?
Go to our website, credentialsunlimited.com, easy to remember. And then they can decide, like that wheel is on our website that Donna has behind her. And they can determine, what area do I want to get my micro-credential in? And they can click on that part, and it'll take you to any of the courses that we have with a micro-credential in that area. So depending on, what you want to focus on, you can pick, or you can just go through all the course offerings that we have and determine, what kind of feels like your next step. And then there's links into how to register for the courses. You complete the course. And then at the end of the course, if you've done all the work and passed whatever the outcomes were, then we issue your micro-credential. So
very inexpensively, I might add.
Yes, which is so important for teachers and schools on budgets right now.
Exactly.
Yeah. So if there's any superintendents or school boards out there also listening, we'd like to put a plug in for it. These are really high level courses, and we would love to see more districts accept them as pay raise for the teachers, because
Right.
they're using usually their own time to learn and do these things. And so while we're working on, trying to help them get higher ed access into programs, we also want to get them pay raises, right? There are some districts that are doing that, but not enough. So I think that's a big wish of ours, is to connect with
Sure.
folks that are wanting to do that, and we can help that process.
Okay. Well, thank you both, not only for your time today. This went so fast, but thank you for your time today. But thank you for all that you have done in literacy to get us to here. And I know you aren't done. So thanks for all that you're going to continue to do in the future, because you have both had, and I hope you realize this every day, a huge impact on not only expanding literacy, but expanding knowledge, the love for learning, and the love for expanding the literacy learning, and just really the beautiful thing that you've done is bringing people together. So
Thank
thank
you.
you.
No,
Thank you so
thank you.
much. So, for teachers who have listened to this
Mhm.
and you want to know more, check out credentialsunlimited.com. For leaders, as a former leader, as a former professional
Mhm.
development coordinator and director of that, of PD and curriculum instruction, and as a former superintendent, to everyone in those roles. I know your budgets are tight. I know we're all looking at reduced budgets. This is a very inexpensive way to bring high quality
Yes.
professional development to your staff members on a limited resource. So check it out. And
Mhm.
if you're a teacher, share this podcast, share this information with your leaders, your
Mhm.
board members, the
Mhm.
people at the district level, and let's get the word out and help people start learning at very low cost for them in a way that they can then go immediately and apply this and have an impact on their student learning, and empowering teachers and increasing all outcomes for students. So, as always, it's been an honor to be with all of you. And Grit and Grace, a literacy journey, is a production of Angela Hanlin and Associates, where it is our mission to empower teachers to have the greatest impact, and leaders, teachers and leaders, to have the greatest impact they've ever had on the lives of the students in their buildings. So, thank you all.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank you.
Grit and grace, that's how we grow.